My Greatest Olympic Prize by Jesse Owens. James Cleveland Owens, better known as Jesse Owens, is one of the greatest American athletes of all time. He was recognized as perhaps the greatest and most famous athlete in track and field history during his lifetime. At the 1936 Berlin Games, Owens shattered Hitler's myth of the Aryan supremacy by becoming the most successful athlete of Olympics. As the poet Charles Gigna puts it, Jesse stands as a symbol for all who run for the freedom of the sport and for the spirit of humanity. My Greatest Olympic Prize is an autobiographical sketch by Owens about his personal experiences during the Berlin Olympics 1936. This life writing discloses the philosophical and humanistic side of Owens' friendship with a fellow German athlete, Les Long. It also revisits the critical questions of winning, losing in Olympic Games by exploring the intimacy that he had with Les and the way Les guided him to win gold despite being a fellow board jumper. Owens foregrounds the value of humanity and friendship at a time when people were divided along racist lines. By privileging his long cherished friendship with Les Long over his Olympic medals, Owens reconsiders the idea of winning prize in the games. My greatest Olympic prize. It was the summer of 1936. The Olympic Games were being held in Berlin. Because Adolf Hitler childishly insisted that his performers were members of a master race, nationalistic feelings were at an all time high. I wasn't too worried about all this. I had trained, sweated, and disciplined myself for 6 years with the games in mind. While I was going over on the boat, all I could think about was taking home one or two of those gold medals. I had my eye especially on the running broad jump. A year before, as a sophomore at Ohio State University, I had set the world's record of 26 feet 8 1 by 4 inches. Everyone expected me to win that Olympic event, hands down. I was in for a surprise. When the time came for the broad jump trials, I was startled to see a tall boy hitting the pit at almost 26 feet on his practice leaps. He turned out to be a German named Laszlo. I was told that Hitler had kept him under wraps, evidently hoping to win the jump with him. I guessed that if Long won, it would add some new support to the Nazis' Aryan superiority theory. After all, I am a Negro. A little hot under the collar about Hitler's ways, I determined to go out there and really show the Führer and his master race who was superior and who wasn't. An angry athlete is an athlete who could make mistakes. As any coach will tell you, I was no exception. On the first of my three qualifying jumps, I leaped from several inches beyond the takeoff board for a foul. On the second jump, I fouled even worse. Did I come 3,000 miles for this? I thought bitterly. To foul out of the trials and make a fool of myself? Walking a few yards from the pit, I kicked disgustedly at the dirt. Suddenly, I felt a hand on my shoulder. I turned to look into the friendly blue eyes of the tall German broad jumper. He had easily qualified for the finals on his first attempt. He offered me a firm handshake. Jesse Offense, I am Laszlo. I don't think we have met. He spoke English well, though with a German twist to it. Glad to meet you, I said. Then, trying to hide my nervousness, I added, How are you? I'm fine. The question is, How are you? What do you mean? I asked. Something must be eating you, he said, proud the way foreigners are when they have mastered a bit of American slang. You should be able to qualify with your eyes closed. Believe me, I know it, I told him, and it felt good to say that to someone. For the next few minutes we talked together. I didn't tell Long what was eating me, but he seemed to understand my anger and he took pains to reassure me. Although he had been schooled in the Nazi youth movement, he didn't believe in the Aryan supremacy business any more than I did. We laughed over the fact that he really looked the part, though. An inch taller than I, he had lean, muscular frame, clear blue eyes, blonde hair, and a strikingly handsome chiseled face. Finally, seeing that I had calmed down somewhat, he pointed to the takeoff board. Look, he said, why don't you draw a line few inches behind the board and aim at making your takeoff from there? You will be sure not to foul, and you certainly ought to jump far enough to qualify. What does it matter if you are not first in the trials? Tomorrow is what counts. Suddenly, all the tension seemed to ebb out of my body as the truth of what he said hit me. Confidently, I drew a line a full foot behind the board and proceeded to jump from there. I qualified with almost a foot to spare. That night, I walked over to Laslong's room in the Olympic Village to thank him. I knew that if it hadn't been for him, I probably wouldn't be jumping in the finals the following day. We sat in his quarters and talked for 2 hours about track and field, ourselves, the world situation, a dozen other things. When I finally got up to leave, we both knew that a real friendship had been formed. Laslong would go out to the field the next day, trying to beat me if he could, but I knew that he wanted me to do my best, even if that meant my winning. As it turned out, Les broke his own past record. In doing so, he pushed me on to a peak performance. I remembered that at the instant I landed my final jump, the one which set Olympic record of 26 feet 5 by 16 inches. He was at my side congratulating me. Despite the fact that Hitler glared at us from the strands, not 100 yards away, Les shook my hand hard, and it wasn't a fake smile with a broken heart sort of grip either. You can melt down all the gold medals and cups I have, and they couldn't be a plating on the 24-carat friendship I felt for Les Long at that moment. I realized then too that Les was the epitome of what Pierre de Coubertin, founder of the modern Olympic Games, must have had in mind when he said, the important thing in the Olympic Games is not winning, but taking part. The essential thing in life is not conquering, but fighting well.